So I was an only child until I was 7 years old, oldest only. So I invite you to Google the characteristics in normal situations of an oldest only, but they tend to be pretty solitary creatures. And in my situation, which wasn't normal, as we've established, uh, when my mom was pregnant and she gave birth to my brother, she had converted to Christianity at some point, and she was really into Oral Roberts. For those of you who don't know who that is, he was one of the forerunners of the prosperity movement. But she's very religious at this point, and my dad wasn't really. But at some point, she made the comment that she had received a word of prophecy, that my brother was a prophet and with a great destiny. I was helping give care, not a lot. I went to school, but my mom just loved this boy, and she should, of course, that's her kid. But I was put in the role of caregiver when I was home from school, and he was this special child. I was just caregiver. I was a bad kid, no worth. I remember when she said she had a word of prophecy about my brother. Well, do I have one, Mom? No. She looked at me like, oh, you really think so? You would have a word of prophecy, you? I was good enough to provide care to him, and that was it. Not worthwhile in any other way. A few years later, it was in 80, I think it was, 79, 80, my dad lost his job. We ended up moving in with my grandfather. Again, I mentioned my parents weren't stable financially. We moved a lot. Dad seemed to change jobs a lot. And at least 2 occasions we lived with my mom's dad, my grandpa, my po. And in this case, she got pregnant with my sister, who's 10 years younger. My brother's 7 years younger. My sister's 10 years younger. And she was colicky, and my parents would shove her off onto me. They did try to help her, and then they put her off on me. I get that. I'm the oldest. I mean, that's very common. The oldest steps in as caregiver. I guess what was confusing was I did nothing right. I was a bad kid. I lied. I was manipulative. All these things they say about me, but they had no problem shoving off their kids onto me to take care of them. They had no problem having me help my dad. I was good enough for that, for caregiving, and that shaped my life. This is important that you understand. The only thing my parents seemed to value me for was either giving them care or their children's care. And the only value I ever knew, the only thing I felt good about, was if I took care of other people at the expense of myself. So I walked my sister, and I took care of my brother and sister. And by the way, so in 82-ish, 3-ish, at the end of 7th grade, we had moved a lot. My last year that I was in school, I missed most of it. We moved to Lancaster, California, and I did not go to school. My parents did not have me go to school because they couldn't afford daycare. So I was watching my brother and sister. At the end of that school year, my mom and dad came to me and said, hey, we need you, and you don't seem to be doing well in school. That's a whole other thing. I was bullied, but well, I think you'd understand. I didn't fit in with my peers. I was a weirdo. And so I got a little bullying. And they knew that. So they kind of jumped. And they knew I missed a lot. I missed a lot of school because we moved all the time. So they were like, you're going to have to repeat a year. You're not getting along with your peers anyway, which is like, there's something wrong with you. You don't get along with people. Well, I never learned it. That's the only thing. So I agreed. But I was heavily manipulated, so I really didn't have a choice. I became caregiver to my brother and sister, and it was to all of our detriments. I was 13. 13 and 14. Having been abused mentally, physically. My mom was emotionally distant. My dad was a screamer and a beater. So it's like I had no love. And now they got me taking care of kids that I didn't want in my life in the first place. And I was not a good caregiver. I'm not going to lie. I screamed at them and I hit them because that's what I knew. I'm not justifying it. I was abusive. Yeah. And I regret it. I wish I could go back in time and fix it, fix the things that happened. I can't. I can only say that when you're beat on, and screamed at in your early teens, and you take on the care of two young children that aren't yours, you don't know what you're doing, and you'll probably emulate what you've seen. That doesn't make them feel better, I'm sure, but that's what it was. So the only time I felt any sense of purpose or worth in my family is when I was pouring out care or attention or duty to them. I never felt worth or value or love or approval any other way. And that kind of set the stage for me when I was 16, going on 17, and I met Neil. Severely damaged, no self-worth, very religious because, again, my mom had converted, so we were religious, and I had strict rules I had to follow to be good. And it was very important for me to feel like I was a good person because it was so easy not to be. Like, you open your presents too fast, you're a mercenary, and if you don't open them fast enough, you're a martyr. So it was important to me to follow the rules so I felt like I was a good person. And it was important to me to pour out care and duty and attention so that I had some sense of worth. And that is where I was at when I met Neil. And I will end this on that. My parents lost our home. We were living in a tent at a RV/campsite in Santa Clarita, Newhall area. And that's how I met Neil. He was a security guard. He was 29 years old. He had two roommates. He drove a 1979 Ford Pinto, piece of shit car, okay? And working as a security guard at that campsite when we met. And he saw me every day because my parents would go off to work. And I was left alone at 16 watching my brother and sister reading books while they played. And that is how we met. He observed me being a reader and caring for my siblings. And that set the stage for what turned out to be the most important relationship in my life. And now we will proceed into how I ended up married to a narcissist and staying in a bad relationship for 38 years.